Hello and welcome to another Teacher's Corner. I'm Teacher Kirby, and today we're going to finish up the series on the specialization trees. We're actually going to do two specialization trees today because they're both secondary specializations. You'll remember if you watched the first three in the series that a secondary specialization only utilizes Tier 1 and Tier 2. So a full secondary specialization only has Tier 1 and Tier 2. There are two specializations in our trees that fall into this category. That's Strategist and Commando. We're going to start with Strategist. So the first thing, you gain temporary hull when healed by bridge officer and captain abilities. This is logistical support. The main skill, here it is. Alright, so specialization details experts in developing and adapting battlefield plans. Strategists are prized for their ability to react to conditions of multi-ship combat. While the strategist specialization is active, you will gain 5% increase to your maximum shield capacity. So this means your shields will be larger while this is active. Doesn't matter whether it's in primary or secondary. You can only put it in secondary. You'll notice there's only that choice. Okay. Bonus increases a small amount for each point you spend in the specialization. So you see that I have spent so far 10 points in this specialization. I have not finished it out yet. And so my current bonus in space is plus 8.3% maximum shield capacity. So my shields are about 8% stronger than they would be if I were running something else as my secondary. Alright, so the popular thing to do nowadays is to run Intel as primary and this tree, Strategist, as secondary. So there's a lot of things that go with this tree. The first thing I want to point out is that when you look at this tree, there's two conditions. Okay, it has a different effect. Each of these abilities has a different effect depending on whether you are threatening or not threatening. What does that mean? Well, if we look at our normal space thing, okay, here we go. It is, here we go, threat control. Okay, it's assuming that you've chosen threat control. If you have not chosen threat control, if you chose hanger weaponry instead, if you've spec'd 5 points into tactical, which most people do, and you've chosen hanger weaponry, then you are considered to be non-threatening. Okay? If you have chosen threat control, then you have the choice to be non-threatening or to choose threatening. You will have an activatable in your tray, okay, and that activatable will allow you to go into threatening stance. In fact, let's go up into space so I can show you what that looks like. Okay, so that activatable will allow you to go into threatening stance. While you are in threatening stance, you have to click it to become threatening. While you are in threatening stance, you are considered to be threatening. Okay, so this is my tray. You'll see that I have chosen threat control. So I have available in my tray, where is it? To pick, come up to cues. Okay. Ramming, speed, science team, tactical, there it is, threatening stance. Okay, so I have this activatable that I can put in my tray. Alright, so this is threatening stance. You'll see what it looks like here. Okay, if I click it, then it gives me plus 300 threat generation. That's the threatening mode. If I don't click it, if I just leave it off, which you'll notice I didn't have it on my tray, I usually leave it off because I am not a tank. I don't want that extra threat. So I just leave it off so I stay, as long as I don't put it in my tray and don't click on it, then I would stay in non-threatening mode, which means that I deal less threat and I don't have to worry about it. Okay? So if you don't put this in, if you choose threatening stance but you don't put it in your tray and you don't ever click on it, then or threat controlled and you don't ever click on it, then you are non-threatening. If you choose to put this in your tray and you click on it, then you go into threatening mode, and you would have to click it a second time to go into non-threatening mode. Okay, to go back into non-threatening mode. So I'm going to get that off of my bar because I do not want to go into threatening mode. At least not now. That's not the way that I play. So, alright. So it's important to note that because each of these skills in Strategist, or things that you unlock, have two separate contingencies. One while threatening, one while non-threatening. Okay, so it's important to note which is which. So, while you are threatening, logistical support, there's 3 levels of it. This is level 1. Logistical support while threatening. So if you have clicked on threatening stance, you gain 10% of incoming bridge officer or captain hull healing as temporary hull for 10 seconds. And this stacks up to 10 times. So it can be quite a powerful heal, okay, that you gain for those 10 seconds. And, you know, this is important while you're threatening because you are getting everything shooting at you. So you want to be able to heal quite quickly. While non-threatening, plus 1% crit chance for 10 seconds after incoming bridge officer or captain hull heal. So you have to heal yourself and you get plus 1% crit chance. Not a bad thing. You get it for 10 seconds. Okay. The level 2 of this gives 20% incoming bridge officer captain hull healing as temporary hull. Stacks up 10 times or 2% crit chance. And the 3rd level gives you 30% of the thing as temporary hull for 10 seconds or 3% crit chance. So these are quite good. Whether you're threatening or non-threatening, these are quite good. One's going to keep you alive as a bit of a, oh crap, and the other is going to give you some extra crit chance, which, you know, I never turn away. Alright, on the other side of this tree we have Show of Force. With Show of Force, while you are threatening, you get 10% incoming hull healing. That means you do more healing. Okay? Basically, you gain extra hull healing. So this is another keep you alive kind of thing. While you're not threatening, so for those of us that aren't tanks, firing a weapon gives 2% crit severity for 10 seconds. So this helps you to take advantage of that extra crit chance that you're getting from logistical support. Okay, so now you have extra crit severity. Okay, for 10 seconds, 5 stacks max, can gain 1 stack every 5 seconds. Okay, so you can get a bunch of stacks on here. So that means you can get up to 10% crit severity from level 1 Show of Force. Okay, Show of Force 2 gives 4% crit severity every 10 seconds. 5 seconds max, gain 1 stack every 5. So you can gain up to 20% crit severity from this while not threatening. If you're threatening, you gain an extra 20% incoming hull heals. Okay? Alright. Now the other side of this tree, counteroffensive. Counteroffensive is basically a feedback pulse, but there's no scaling involved with things like part gens. It has a top limit on its damage of 20,000, 10,000 initially, with the ability to reflect 150% of incoming damage. But it's limited at 10,000. So if your target hits you with, say, 30,000 damage, you're only going to reflect 10,000 of it back. Okay? Alright. Counteroffensive 2, same thing, except now instead of every 15 seconds, you can do it every 10 seconds. And counteroffensive 3 reflects up to 300%, reflects 300% with a maximum of 20,000 damage. that it can reflect. And again, this happens every 10 seconds. And if I look at layered defense is Odin Knight's nightmare. It is immunity to torpedo damage. It is specific to torpedo damage. And it is once every 60 seconds. So if somebody hits you with a torpedo, this kicks in once, and then after that 60 seconds, you are not immune to torpedoes anymore. Okay? You have to wait 60 seconds to be immune again. Layered defense 2 decreases that cooldown to 45 seconds. Okay? So this is actually quite good if you fight races that like to shoot a lot of torpedoes. The Borg like to shoot plasma torpedoes. This would be good for them. This might even save you from one of the Invisitorps that are so dreaded. Alright, moving right along to Diversionary Tactics. This is Tier 2. Okay, so Diversionary Tactics also has a threatening and non-threatening mode. So if you're threatening, not only are you doing plus 300% threat generation, now you're also taunting foes. You're going, Nina, Nina, boo, boo, you can't get me. Okay, and they're going, oh yeah, watch this. Okay, this is what Diversionary Tactics does. It's a taunt. Okay, and all the people are laughing their heads off now. Okay, so it taunts anything within 10 kilometers, and you gain an extra 50% more threat for 10 seconds. So now you're doing 350% threat generation, and you're going, ha 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 ha, can't get me. Missed me, now you gotta kiss me kind of thing. Okay? You're getting them really mad. If you're not threatening, you placate foe. Placate means you make them go, I don't care about you. Okay? Within 10 kilometers and generate 50% less threat for 10 seconds. Now this is good, but this placate may break on damage. The last line of the long description. This placate may break on damage. That means if you continue to do damage, then you break the placate. You make them start to pay attention to you again. Okay? Doesn't say for sure it will, but it may. And if you're in a 100k boat, you're probably going to break the damage pretty darn quick. But this at least will help. Okay? Now, here's the other thing. Okay? While using diversionary tactics, these are modifiers to diversionary tactics. Okay? Attrition warfare. Attrition warfare reduces the recharge time of your bridge officer abilities while you are threatening. If you're not threatening, you're not going to see a reduction in your bridge officer abilities. So you have to use the threatening mode in order for that to work. Okay? If you are not threatening, you will simply get higher shield and hull regeneration rate. 10% to be specific for Attrition Warfare 1. For Attrition Warfare 2, that increases to 20% shield and hull healing while you're not threatening. If you are threatening, your bridge officer abilities will be reduced by 30%. Okay, but this is only once every 20 seconds. So it's not it's not every single time you hit an ability, but it will be once every 20 seconds. It'll be pretty darn close. Okay, we also have the second modifier is maneuver warfare. Now, maneuver warfare only adds an effect to diversionary tactics. Diversionary tactics is an activatable. So you activate it, and then maneuver warfare kicks in. If you have not activated diversionary tactics, maneuver warfare modifiers will not apply. Okay? Alright, so maneuver warfare adds an additional effect to diversionary tactics. While you are threatening, it heals 2.5% of your max hull per affected foe over 10 seconds, maximum 5 foes. So that means you get you get hull healing. Okay, you get about 15% hull healing or so. Okay, per affected foe. or sorry, you get about 15% total of hull healing because you can only have 5 foes over 10 seconds. So it's an extra, you're causing a little extra threat, we're going to give you some more hull. Okay, help to keep you alive. If you're not threatening, you get just a straight damage boost, 1.5%, so about 7.5 it works out to, because you can have 5 foes. So about 7.5% all damage total. Okay, and that's a foe that is affected by diversionary tactics. Okay, and this is Maneuver Warfare 1. Maneuver Warfare 2 is a little more straightforward. 5% of max hull. Okay, and 3% bonus all damage. So that works out to 15% and about 25% max hull. 15% of your damage boost, and I would imagine that would be a Cat 1 because it's all damage, so it would be relatively low, but it would be noticeable. Okay, so and again, but this maneuver warfare is only in effect while you have diversionary tactics active. Okay, which is only a 10-second, yeah, which is only a 10-second thing. So these are only available during that 10 seconds when diversionary tactics is active. They're not going to be available all the time. Alright, so that is the strategist tree. Okay, pretty straightforward. Now we're going to check out, because they are small trees, we're going to check out the commando tree. This is ground only. None of this will affect you in space. Okay, this is again a secondary tree. It has 2 trees or 2 tiers. Okay, alright, and we have resilient power cells. Resilient power cells is very straightforward. It's a straight reduction of the cooldown on your secondary firing modes. It does either 1 second or 5%, whichever is less. Okay, and if I go down the tree on the left side, it brings it up to reduction of 3% or 3 seconds or 15%, whichever is less. And tier 3 or third level is 5 seconds or 25%, whichever is less. Okay, and this is going to depend on your weapon, which one is going to be less and which one is going to be more. On the other side of this tier, or this tree, we have Quick Draw 1, and this is all of your kit abilities have their cooldowns reduced. 10% for level 1, 20% for level 2. So this is pretty straightforward. Anything you can do with your kits, you can do a little faster now. Okay, moving right along, we have Headshot. Headshot gives you an increase to your crit damage while you are crit chance, while you are aiming. So if you are not in aim mode, you do not get this extra crit chance. You get 2.5% for level 1. For level 2, you get 5%. Pretty straightforward. Okay, braced crouch. While you are in crouch, you get an extra number of hit points or regeneration every 2 seconds, and that is doubled actually while not in combat. Okay, so you would get more while you're not in combat. Moving right along, follow through. While sprinting, all melee attacks are increased in effectiveness. This effect lingers for 3 seconds after sprinting, so this affects only melee damage. And if you're using a rifle or a gun, that is not melee damage. Melee damage is kicking, hitting, punching, batleths, bladed weapons, things like that. Okay, that's melee damage. That is increased by 25% with this ability. Moving right along, we have Wrecking Ball. Executing a tactical roll will leave a small spatial mine behind. This mine can be used to deal damage to nearby enemies. Whenever you roll, leave a spatial mine behind. Okay, and this, of course, because I'm in space, it looks like it deals a whole lot of damage. It really doesn't. deal nearly this much, but the point is you leave a mine behind whenever you do a roll. Can be quite handy. Alright, moving right along to the bottom here, Juggernaut system. A subdermal layer of nanorobots or nanobots that integrate armor systems with your body's natural biological process. Okay, what this really does, it knocks back foes within melee range while sprinting. So in other words, if you can run up to somebody, get really close, run by them, it'll knock them back onto their butt. Okay, it's actually quite interesting to watch. You can actually, if you run up to the table on Ryza, you can actually knock down some of the players playing Dabo. Some of the NPCs. It's quite amusing. Okay. And then we have Juggernaut Armor Plating 1. What this does is increases the damage resistance and maximum hit points of any armor that you are wearing. Juggernaut Armor Plating 1 gives a 10% increase, and Juggernaut Armor Plating 2 gives 20% increase. And Juggernaut Shielding, same thing, but for shields. So it increases the shield capacity, and it reduces all energy damage to shields by 5% for one. Increases shield capacity by 20%, reduces all energy damage to shields by 10% for level 2. Pretty self-explanatory for ground. Okay? Alright, this has been Teacher's Corner. I'm Teacher Kirby. You can hear the discussion of Teacher's Corner live on the Pilot Review Show every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope to see you there.